Got a chance to review the title because that's going to be the subject of tonight's conversation, depending on who comes through and what comes through. Um, and this is geared towards the empaths and the healers. I'm in here unleashing my inner child by Transformers more than meets the eye, things that are in disguise. And as an empath and a healer, myself, I wanted to give a little wisdom because it's been quite a journey since I started my, consciously knowing that I was an empath and a healer, what that really means. And I know there's a new generation of powerful beings on the planet coming in who may need a little guidance, who may need a little word. And I wanted to be one of those people that put a little bit of that energy forward, not to be the end all be all, but this may be a place where you can get some of answers to your questions or insights, right? So I channel very well when I touch back into my inner child. That's why I keep my Transformer collection and things that remind me of creativity and fun. This is a very important part of your journey as a healer or an empath because this is what's going to keep you grounded. This is where your creativity is. It's going to keep you centered. Things that are lighthearted and fun. This is how you cleanse your energy, especially if you have to go out into the world and be out there for extended amounts of time because you are picking up on everything, whether you know it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not. Being an empath and being a healer, you are naturally geared towards the emotions and feelings of others, the collective. That's part of your job, if you will. And that comes with a few things. You have to learn to accept the role of both the hero and the villain. Now, to my healers, first and foremost, as a healer, you realize that one, just like doctors in the medical field, you can't save everyone that you lay hands on. You know, I was a Reiki master since I guess 2004, and I've done a lot of great things with it, but outside of not being able to help those beforehand, you know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Um, you as a healer are not the one that heals the individual. You are merely the catalyst. How you doing? Welcome on in. This is for healers and empaths. If you'd like to join the conversation, you're more than welcome to and stay and listen and add your insights. Um, and we're talking about the healers. Little scammer. Oh Lord have mercy. This is part of the process as I'm looking at my community board where people are introducing themselves. This is not really politics. This is more spirituality. This is for people who are gifted in a certain area as being an empath or a healer, right? Politics is something that's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother can of worms. You feel me? Maybe another time we'll dive into the politics of the world and how it's kept us bound as a society, right? But for the healers, you are merely the catalyst to everybody else's healing. The work is for the individual themselves to go through. You are the heads up that spirit sends to people. And as a healer, a lot of times you're going to come across, because you're a healer, naturally you're going to attract people who are hurt, who are sick. You know, it could be a multitude of things. It could be trauma from the past, it could be mental issues, it could be physical issues, anything that would ail an individual or keep them from moving forward in a productive way in their life. Keep this in mind, especially in regards to intimate relationships, because, you know, um, fine as hell still has problems in this world just as well as anybody else. You understand what I'm saying? People with great qualities that you like are still traumatized. You have to keep this in mind when you're running into people. You want to make sure that you're with somebody, if you are looking for an intimate relationship, as a healer that has worked on themselves as much as you have, or at least understands the program. You understand what I'm saying? We all have work to do, and we're all in different levels, right? But when you come into it and you really start getting your flow and starting to understand, um, we can talk about any of that. We're going to take a look at everything that's presented because you're here for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Just like the healers and the empaths. So I appreciate um, the input. We're going to tie that all in. Okay, little scammer. Not a problem. Um, because what will happen in these intimate parts of your life is you'll think that these people may be soulmates, and very much they are, because you have a contract to help these people to be the catalyst to their healing. What do I mean by that? You're the prescription. You're the person who can come in, and because of your experience and what you've been through, you're able to speak on things that people have not gone through. This is the difference. Okay. And when you're in that position, you must have a level of integrity with you. That means you're not thinking with your lower nature. You know what I'm saying? You're genuinely talking to people and meeting people where they're at. This is why studying people, their religions, their cultures, their ways of life is beneficial, because you get an understanding of where they're coming from. You know, in my journeys through studying all the different religions and different spiritual systems, you see why people are like they are. A lot of times these systems aren't helpful. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. They it's that whole thing with when they say forget the messenger, did you get the message kind of thing. You feel what I'm saying? Like, even as a Muslim, you might come across a piece of scripture from the Bible or some form of other spirituality that lines up with whatever it is that you're going through. So this is where you have to be willing to be open to the collective as it is. And this will immensely increase your abilities of discernment in these matters, right? Moroccan Muslim. Salam alaikum. So see, having that, I came from Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is predominantly Muslim. You know what I'm saying? I've lived around the culture, even over there at the schools. We have all the major universities, a lot of major universities in Philadelphia. A lot of them come from overseas. So not only did I have a chance to sit with the Muslims from America, but the Muslims from overseas, and it's a whole different ballgame. It's nothing like you see on TV, because now you get to really tap into what people really feel and think and how they, move about life, and you'll find a rich treasure if you allow it, right? But back to the healing part. When somebody comes into your life and there's a issue, you have to be very conscious of how you go about healing people. You can't give them the hope that you just putting hands or saying a few words is going to do the job. You have to make sure that they understand that the healing part is for them. You're merely applying the medicine, you know what I'm saying? But they got to keep up with taking 2 pills every day. They have to be on top of their own shit. You must hold people who are your patients, quote unquote, accountable. They must be the most active element into their own healing, whatever that may be. So let's see, addiction affects our soul to heal from the other sources of evil. So you're talking about patterns of behavior now. There's an old saying, how did I get here? You know what I'm saying? How did the person get there? It's not so much the addictions you're looking at. You're looking at why they manifested. Is it from uh, being around these people? You feel what I'm saying? Is it from being around that environment? You grow up in the hood, everybody smokes weed. You got crackheads, you got everything up in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Good and bad. But there's certain places in the world where it's a it's a pretty low frequency. You feel what I'm saying? And a lot of good-hearted people come from these environments, and a lot of them don't come out unscathed. You see a lot of things in these places that would put the hairs on your neck up. You feel what I'm saying? Make the hair stand up. Stories that you wouldn't believe. Um, assault, abuse, murder, the rape, the addictions. These are all things that we deal with as healers. Uh, Now, as a healer, and this is going to tie into the empath, you have an ability, you have an innate gift to feel what somebody is going through, to sense these things that people are going through. And you must also realize that they are in your life because you are that person that can help them. They could have gone to a million other people. You know, you could have been assigned to a whole nother group of people, but this particular person or people that come to you are meant to be in your life. And also, they're meant to teach you something about yourself. So keep that in mind as well. As an empath and as a healer, you gain a lot from these relationships. So don't look at it as one sided. You know, a lot of people, when they start to really get into their groove and start changing and healing, you'll find that they are very powerful on their own. It was just these certain things that were holding them back from being the best version of themselves at that time. So you really have a chance to meet some very incredible, unique individuals along your path. And it's not a judgment thing because usually the reason they come to you is because you've been through what they've been through. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're dealing right there, scamming with the alcohol or the addictions, you understand? There's some, if you're a healer, you understand the nature of how that begins, the patterns, and you also know through working on yourself how to overcome them, which helps people have that, you know, that supporting hand in the beginning of their healing journey. Again, you have to make these people accountable for their work. There has been an overwhelming attempt to discredit the spiritual community, the gifts, the talents that come with being a spiritual person. And it's because they've commercialized it like everything else. It's just something you can pay for and it's over. And that is the lie that they really perpetuate out here, is that you can just put it in a bottle and overnight your problems are gone. It is the subconscious mind that you empaths and healers are here to impact, because this is where all the patterns, this is where all the self-talk and all the delusions come from, is a person's subconscious mind. They're literally fighting with themselves, right? You're there to help them bring balance into their world, to accept their light and their darkness. Okay? Is reintroducing the environment, is reducing the environment enough, or do we need to replace it with a good one? That is okay. So one size doesn't fit all. For somebody, maybe early on, maybe that would work. Maybe even for somebody, you know, you really have to be in the moment with these individuals. You can't treat everybody the same. You can't bottle them and put them in one category and say, this pill works for these kind of people. You really have to take your time and get to know the individual and where they're coming from, because everybody's different. You understand? This is why I studied astrology, so I can understand the modalities that people possess in their birth charts. The Mayan calendar was a great asset. The destiny cards, you know, different systems that help explain these dynamics. Even cartoons and stuff like these. These are all archetypes of the human soul. That's all the pantheons were. You know, your Egyptian gods, your Norse gods, whatever system, they all had the Orishas. You know, all those were archetypes of the human soul. And they were meant to show you the different archetypes so that you have a focus point for whatever it was that you were studying or learning at that time. This was the ancient sages' way of getting back to what we originally started out with. And we'll have another conversation about that. But let's just say the environment does help. If you bring somebody into a healthy environment, and I've seen it recently, you know what I'm saying? It's not always the case that they change. There is a degree of patience that's necessary. You know, everybody moves at their own speed. It just depends on how much effort you're willing to give of yourself. So this is the part where it really gets funky, because as empaths and healers, we are most of the time naturally givers. We are giving out the information. We are giving out the advice. We are giving of ourselves. And you're literally pouring into an empty cup in the beginning. You understand? A cup with a hole in it. These people haven't learned the or mastered or began the journey of self-love mastery. That is a lifetime thing. That will never stop. There will never be a day where you cannot improve on yourself But that is also the beauty of the universe and being infinite, is that you have so much more to you that you can work on. You know what I'm saying? And it's like at this particular time that we're dealing with like the culmination of hundreds of years. You feel what I'm saying? Hundreds of years of traumas, of murders, wars, all that affecting the next generation. And then that generation not advocating or dealing with it, passing it to the next generation, to the next generation. So you got like, let's lighten the mood here. This is where you get three generations of hoes. You feel what I'm saying? This is where you get three generations of drug dealers. Everybody doing the same thing because the pattern hasn't been broken. So if you do change the environment, it can have an impact. But this is only part of the solution. Yes, that does help. But what people are really needing to do is rearrange their subconscious mind, the way they think about themselves, the way they feel about themselves, and what they've been through, and learn to accept the fact that these experiences do not define who they are. These are just learning classrooms, basically, that we're meant to go through in order to cleanse the soul, bring us back to the original source of things. This is how I see it. Like I said, this is just me adding into the pool. There are a lot of other perspectives out here that are very valid and may spark even more, but maybe there's a piece in here for you. And if that's all you take away from it, I am grateful for that. You feel what I'm saying? So, like this character, Optimus Prime, the optimism, the prime, the first, even the colors mean something, right? Everything takes on new meaning for you. You don't see life the way everybody else sees it. You know what I'm saying? When I look at Optimus Prime, I see the planet Jupiter. Jupiter deals with being optimistic, the expansion of things. You know what I'm saying? So this has now become something that I've alchemized. And this is what you're gearing people to do, to start alchemizing the pain and putting it into artwork, sharing your story through artwork. Art is one of the most healing modalities. It's not just drawing and painting. We're talking about singing. We're talking about dancing. We're talking about getting people back into their passion and being in their inner child again. As you can see, this whole room looks like a kid might live in here, right? But this is how I've alchemized my journey and told my story. Not everybody possesses the ability to draw, but maybe they haven't been in the environment where these things are allowed to prosper. Because if they had more to focus on that end, they would focus less on what they're going through as well, little scammer. You feel what I'm saying? Be for real about you for the retro. Yeah. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope everybody's doing well where you're at. Fall equinox is here. Happy equinox. And just a new beginning. It's a whole lot going in the cosmos right now. If you're one of those people that follow that, it's very much a beautiful time if you're taking the opportunity and being accountable for yourself. What other points? Because I'm really just freestyling this. I didn't write the points down because Spirit was like, just get in there and do it. Now, this is the time that we're in, about being in the moment and being present. You can't plan for everything. You have to learn to be flexible as a healer and as an empath. Let's talk about the maintenance of all that, because you giving out so much energy and people are generally not in a place where they can reciprocate. You understand? Um, because of where they're at, and that's fine. As an empath, as a healer, you must consistently pour into yourself. You must consistently cleanse your environment. You know what I'm saying? You must consistently surround yourself with things that make you happy, that allow you to express yourself. You see what I'm saying? That keep you grounded in who you are and what you're doing. And there's a list of things. You've all heard them before. Spiritual baths, crystals, meditation, grounding, yoga, all that fly shit. There's so much out there for us empaths and healers to uses tools to help keep our energy uh, balanced. We'll say balanced, you know what I'm saying? Nice and clear so that we can show up for everybody else. Now, that is a learning process in itself. We all have different needs, you know what I'm saying? We all have different situations. Self discipline. Well, that's where accountability comes in. Self discipline is the other side of the addiction. You understand what I'm saying? Because we're talking about something that's ritualistic on both ends. Discipline, right? Every Monday, I'm out there doing yoga, regardless, right? That becomes a weekly discipline every Monday. After a while, it comes to the point where you're doing it more than once a week, and it becomes more self-discipline because this is something that you recognize that is aiding you, not just in a physical way, but in a spiritual way. This is the way you release other people's energy as well as your own, so you know who's doing the talking upstairs. You feel what I'm saying? You go ahead and fuck around in a room full of low vibrational people and don't cleanse yourself. You will hear all kinds of shit. You will come down with all kinds of shit, especially if you're not protecting yourself, because naturally you draw that energy out. Now, the difficult part of all this is you being a healer. Like I said before, you're not going to be able to heal everyone. It's just like a doctor with a patient on the table in surgery. Sometimes they make it out depending on the degree of the illness, you know, how far or how long they've been doing something or whatnot. And you have to be cool with that. Your job is simply to deliver the message, not to stick around. You understand what I'm saying? You're not there to hold their hand. You're here to help them get on their feet so that they can stand in their own discipline. And the self discipline comes in when you're accountable, because you're talking about self discipline. Nobody, it's not like your mom or your dad coming in and tell you, hey, you got to clean your room, you know, wash your ass, do the dishes, take out the trash. You know what needs to be done. So when we talk about the discipline, this is a choice. And this is where you'll see whether you need to stick around or not. If people are not making the choice or taking the actions to better themselves and they say they want to be cured, you're wasting your time and you have a vampire on your hands because they're just going to run you into the ground. So this is where your discernment and your self-discipline comes in. So that self-discipline can also be a measure of protection. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, we're doing a ritual. A ritual is just something you do over and over. People go to the store, they buy that pack of cigarettes, they tap the back of that box. That's a ritual. You understand what I'm saying? Light that first one up, and they usually do it, you know. I used to smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes no more, but I know it's like after a good meal, cigarette. After a blunt, cigarette. You stressing out, cigarette. After work, cigarette. Break, cigarette. You see what I'm saying? So what you do is you find ways to cut into those disciplines, because it is a discipline. Now, it's a self-destructive discipline, but a discipline no less, because it's ritualistic. It's a pattern of behavior for whatever reason. You understand what I'm saying? For whatever reason. Um, the hard part, or really the challenge of all this is, especially as an empath and a healer, well, we'll just keep them together. You are going to be the villain of a lot of people's stories. The unhealed person who has fallen in love with your ass will be mad at you that you will not be with them because you have the self-discipline to know better, to know what's good for you, to know that this person is just looking for something to attach to rather than to be alone. Now, if you can be alone and by yourself, you are on a path of self-mastery, of self-discipline. This means you don't need the outside world to tell you shit about yourself and what you need to do. That is one of the strongest positions you can be in this lifetime, right? And to other people who are not yet there or capable of doing it, this is where your envy and your jealousy comes in. How are you so happy? Especially when you come across people who have more than you in a certain way. You know, I've talked to people who are rich beyond measure. I lived with this couple when I was in Atlanta, and they had a mansion. This dude, he managed every day in Wendy's in down this highway in Florida. So this motherfucker was paid, right? had from the outside, it looked like the perfect American family. Wife, husband, two kids, dogs in the yard, swimming pool, 15-car garage. You would think that this would be the perfect place. But when I lived there and saw the signs, I saw an unhappy marriage. I saw children who weren't disciplined. They were spoiled. You know what I'm saying? I saw all these little things creep in. And you will see that even with all that money, they couldn't fix the internal problems because they were trying to do it in a physical way. You feel what I'm saying? It's a possibility that they could feel different or indifferent. But this is the thing that you have to understand. Even in those moments, you are still helping that person, or at least giving them the opportunity or the chance to make a choice. Because when you do that and you're standing in your light and you're just going about your business and people see that, you're triggering something within them that they haven't addressed. And this is where the anger comes from. This is where the envy and the jealousy comes from. These are unhealed parts of ourselves. Why would you want to feel that about anybody else? You should have enough on your plate to where you don't really, bother with anybody else outside of your circle, the people that care about you and you care about them, right? Um, so you have to be comfortable with the role of being not only the hero or the hero, but you have to also be cool with being the Decepticon. Because as a healer and an empath, you have an ability to hold up a mirror to people that they either reflect or project parts of their personality onto you. But what they're really seeing is the parts of themselves. So that part of you that's happy and joyful is something that they wish that they could have, but they're just not willing to put in the work. And this is where your boundaries come in. As an empath and a healer, you must have strong boundaries. You must have a code of ethics about yourself, where you carry yourself in the world. You know what I'm saying? Because there are empaths and quote unquote healers that are using this for their own betterment. They're not really concerned. You know what I'm saying? Again, there's been a overwhelming consortium to discredit the spiritual community and the gifts and the talents and all that comes with it. It's just something to keep in mind. So you even have that to kind of contend with, other healers and other empaths and shit like that. You know what I mean? And what level they're on and where they're at in their journey and their intentions with using their gifts. You can use, it's just a tool. You can use it any way you want to, right? Hammer, you can hit somebody over the head or build a house, right? Being comfortable with being the villain. And this is what Spirit has been always showing me and all of us at some point in time why we resonated with certain things, certain genres when we were children. Because a lot of times, all the things that are painful started in childhood, right? So these are the things that you look to because there's hidden meanings in all this for you. You know what I'm saying? For me, it was the Transformers, changing from one thing to another. I'm an ace of spades. You know what I'm saying? That's all about change. If you know anything about the card system, I can't do anything but come into people's lives when they're changing. And I've had to accept that about myself. When people are going through major transitions, whether it's moving from one house to another, moving from one relationship to another, one way of life to another, even from this life into the next, people who carry my energy are usually there to meet you at the door. You know what I'm saying? That's a good question, and that's nothing but all you gotta do is go to the etymology dictionary on Google and put in healer. Um, and maybe there's a better word we could be using, and I'm glad you brought that up because we don't want to get stuck in things. That's when things get stagnant. That's when cures stop working because the damn virus has learned to overcome it. You know what I'm saying? To evolve itself and be able to dodge the bullet, so to speak. Because also, the word heal is a part of your body. It's on your foot. You know what I'm saying? So your subconscious mind, your brain really isn't telling the difference. You know, um, let's just say you're good medicine. Let's just call it good medicine right now. Good medicine. You're a good prescription for what the world needs, for what that person needs, for whatever it is that you find yourself in the midst of, right? We'll just call it that for now. Good medicine. Um, when you think about healing and what goes on inside the body after you administer, there's a war that goes on. You understand what I'm saying? There's a time to purge and flush out the system. And this is the same with all your relationships and with yourself. It's going to be a time where you let go of what you thought you knew and you have to die to be reborn again throughout your life before you physically transition out of here. This is how you grow. And when you do that, again, people who have trouble with change will not understand you and what you're going through. So being misunderstood and looked at as, I don't know, I'm sure there's a million things people have said about a lot of y'all who are in here, because you're not in here for no reason, right? You're either in here because you're a healer and you're an empath and you're resonating with this, or you're a troll. Either way, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I speak to everybody because, again, it's about offering people the choice and the guidance in order to change um, the circumstances of their life. You feel what I'm saying? So for the person that I meet on Monday, I may show up as an Optimus Prime, but later in the week, I become Galvatron. You know what I mean? Or you may run into people who look at you from firsthand and think you're the Megatron because you stand on your business and you're merciless about the shit. Like you're ruthless about your spirituality. You know what I'm saying? In such a very passionate way. But at the end of the week, at the end of the month, you're actually Bumblebee. So that happens a lot. You know what I'm saying? That happens a lot. And dealing with this genre here allows me to be able to convey the message in such a layman's way. So this is why your inner child is and the things that you resonated with as a child are so helpful, because the divine always has had your back, has always given you the clues to who you are in this lifetime since you were a child, right? And it's our job to recognize these things. And you can only do these things when you do one thing only. You go inwards and you start to work on yourself. If 10 people are telling you you're an asshole, well, something must be up, right? Must be something about your attitude. And the thing is, you're not changing for them, you're changing for yourself. And when you go through that process, now you have an antidote that you can pass on to somebody else. All right? And that's just being a healer and an empath. So this is like the basics. I'm not going to keep it too long. It's at 30 minutes. And this is a good time to kind of let this marinate and see what questions come up out of it and conversations that may arise out of this, right? You have to catch the replay, Clover. We're talking about being a healer and an empath in the ins and outs. I felt it's necessary because there are a lot of people waking up on the planet. And whether or not I'm looked at as a hero or a villain or whatever people call me, right? I still have a job to do. And I know because I'm good at it, from children to adults. I still work with children, I still work with adults. And I get good results because of the time that I've spent and the experience that I've gathered. You know what I mean? It's always going to get a little bit easier as you move forward. It's not to say that you're not going to have challenges, but you'll be better equipped as you move forward and you start to gain the experience, which is the most important part. Have you ever tried semen retention as a way to reach the pure soul? Transformers analogy is one way to put it, bro. Absolutely. Semen retention works for some people. I've done it. Like, I haven't been in a relationship since 2017. And I did that because I worked on myself up to this point. I wanted to make sure that I was healed. You understand what I'm saying? Um, but that's more that self-discipline that you were talking about earlier. You know what I'm saying? Um, Knowing when you're ready. And sometimes you really don't know when you're ready. The universe will let you know when you're ready. That motherfucker walk up on you, have a conversation, and everything that you have manifested up to that point will show up in that conversation, and that's how you'll know. You have to be willing to take that step. Healing from a broken heart is one of the hardest things to do on this planet, and allowing yourself to be open enough to receive it again lets you know that you're healed. Being able to laugh and talk and joke about situations that were once serious to you is another way that you know that you've overcome and healed that, because it's no longer heavy on you. You feel what I'm saying? So the same way you maintain yourself in your own unique way. Like, I don't know, I've never seen, like, I use these for my readings, you know what I'm saying? Um, if I did a reading for what's going on now in the cosmos and with people, I would put Megatron and Galvatron next to each other. And not so much because of what happened in Transformers the movie and all that, but because of the evolution from one state to another. Same person, different body. You understand what I'm saying? Similarities with the guns and everything, and the leadership and all that, but becoming stronger. You know what I'm saying? And just to put all the Unicron slave thing out of there, we just gonna leave that. But the evolution, because this is what's going on. The other person I would put out, I think he's in the other box, is Soundwave, because sound is very big right now. I don't care if it's music, I don't care if it's dead silence where you hear the divine talking to you. Soundwave would be another figure I put out here. So this is my own unique way. This is how me and spirit communicate. You understand? So that's another way of honing your skill, is how is spirit communicating with you in these instances so that you can get the messages, you know what I'm saying? Because they may be telling you to drag strip on, you know what I'm saying, get in that car and roll out because you sticking in the situation too long. But I know if I go into Walmart and I see this car, and this is dead end, right? This is dead end. That's his name. I know that whatever situation I'm looking at is at a dead end, and I need to move on from it. You understand what I'm saying? So this is how me and Spirit have established that connection in that relationship, and that's where the magic is at. For you healers and you empaths, you have to have something that grounds that all for you, that makes it make sense for you. You know what I'm saying? Um, I go on for days with it, especially with this collection. And this is not even all of them. I'm getting ready to just go through the boxes and have fun tonight. And that is one of the best ways, laughter and having fun and enjoying yourself. You know, not always working so much, finding that balance between work and play. That'll help you keep grounded and centered as well. So we're at 37. I'm going to cut it off at 40. I'm going to leave the floor open if anybody wants to add on or has a question. And like I said, based on the response and all that, if there's any comments, I might do a part two, or I might just go off on a tangent on something else. Because it just feels like that it's that time for me. I've been in my cocoon long enough, and I knew it was time to come out because of this. I found this sitting outside on one of my projects. It's a cicada. And the cicada, I just love this. This is beautiful. It reminds me of the dark crystal. But if you see the back, it's split open, and whatever was inside has evolved. And you got to know that when you come out of that shell of growth, you're going to be vulnerable. You're going to be tender for a little bit until the shell hardens again. So this is like just a reminder. You know what I'm saying? Nobody is flawless down here, so to speak. We all go through our trials. We all have our good days and our bad days. But how do you, what's your bounce back? How do you get yourself back in the groove? You know, a playlist, visiting a certain area, being in nature, doing some yoga. I don't care. Yodeling off a fucking mountain if it makes you feel better. All right, little scammer, you take care. Thank you. Appreciate you coming through. And yeah, please stop back. You know what I'm saying? Because I like to have more conversations that mean a little bit more past what we're seeing with the two eyes. Is there anybody else in the room who has a question or a comment you'd like to add? You know, anything in the realms of what we're talking about tonight. Because if not, I'm gonna be over here forming Minosaur. Appreciate that universal truth. Well, you already know what it is. I'm sure you got your own way of communicating your own system as well. Takes one to know one. You feel me? So I appreciate you and many blessings on your journey as well. If we never cross paths again, even if we do cross paths, fuck it. Have a beautiful whatever time of day you're in right now. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate that. And you got to be outside the box. You got to be a little different. You got to be courageous in these times. You got to be courageous. You know, stand on your shit because you're going to get opposition. You're going to get pushback. You got your channel. We're okay. I'm gonna check you out. I'm gonna check you out right after this. Um, let me see if I can put him on. I got my channel. All right. I don't know if it'll let me do anything while I'm on here though. I'll see if I can find you in there. We're probably following each other anyway. If not, I'll get on it. But yeah, enjoy your night. So that's what I have tonight. That was on my spirit to speak about. And again, there's really no ego involved. This was me just listening to that intuition. For 11 days, we're going to be in the wave spell of the blue night, which is the dreamer in the Mayan calendar, and it deals with intuition, dreams, and abundance. So these are three great words you can take with you because this is where the juice is at right now. Pay attention to your dreams, trust your intuition, and know that the universe is abundant. You have all that you need right now. And if you don't, all you got to do is ask. So, with all that being said, I wish everybody a beautiful day, afternoon, evening. All the best to you and yours. And take care of yourself. Until next time. Deuce.